There's a moment I see in my office more often than almost anything else. A patient stands up from the exam chair and for just a second they pause. They put a hand on the table. They wait for their legs to agree to the plan before they actually walk. Most of them laugh it off. "Oh, just getting older, doc." But I remember Helen, 74 years old, who came in because her husband finally insisted. She'd been getting up from the couch in the evening and her legs would feel strange for those first few steps. A little weak, a little far away, if that makes sense. Sometimes her feet tingled, like they'd fallen asleep, except she hadn't been sitting in any unusual position. She'd grab the wall, take a breath, and by the third or fourth step, she'd be fine. So she stopped mentioning it. Here's what I told Helen, and what I want to tell you. For a lot of older adults, weak or tingling legs aren't simply the toll of getting older. Sometimes that's your body trying to tell you something about what it isn't getting enough of. And what surprised Helen most wasn't anything dramatic. It was where the answer turned out to be hiding. Partly in her refrigerator. Food she'd walked past 1,000 times in the grocery store without giving them a second thought. So today, I want to walk you through 5 vegetables that, as part of a real, balanced way of eating, may help support your muscles, your nerves, and the circulation that keeps your legs working the way you need them to. Nothing exotic, nothing expensive. And I'd encourage you to stay with me through all 5 because the one I consider the biggest sleeper, the one most people completely overlook, comes near the end. After 30 years of treating folks over 60, it's the one I find myself bringing up again and again, and it's rarely the one people expect. Let's talk first about why this happens at all, because understanding the why makes the what to do about it so much easier to remember. Starting somewhere around our 40s and picking up speed after 60, we naturally lose some muscle mass. There's a clinical name for it, sarcopenia, but you don't need to remember that word. Just think of it like this. Muscle is a little like a garden that needs regular tending. Less activity, less of the right nutrients, and the garden quietly gets smaller, year after year, without you really noticing until one day climbing the stairs feels different than it used to. At the same time, circulation tends to change. Blood vessels are a bit like garden hoses that have been out in the sun for 20 summers. They're still functional, but they've lost some of that flexibility they had when they were new. That means blood, and the oxygen it carries, doesn't always move through your legs as efficiently. And your nerves? They're the electrical wiring of the whole operation. Over time, that insulation can wear thin, which is often what causes that tingling or numbness people describe. Add in the fact that many of us move less than we did at 40, and that some common medications and minor vitamin gaps can quietly add to the picture, and you start to see why legs that worked fine for decades suddenly feel like they need a conversation. Now, the reassuring part, and I mean this sincerely, food and movement genuinely matter here. Not as a miracle, but as a foundation. Let's get into it. The first vegetable I want to mention is spinach, and I'll be honest, it's not a surprising answer, but it earns its spot. Spinach is rich in magnesium, potassium, vitamin K, and natural compounds called nitrates that help support healthy blood flow. Magnesium plays a role in how your muscles contract and relax properly. Potassium helps regulate the nerve signals that tell your muscles what to do. And those nitrates help your blood vessels relax a little, which can support better circulation to your legs. A reasonable amount is about a cup of cooked spinach or 2 cups raw several times a week. Sauté it quickly with a little olive oil and garlic, toss it into a soup, or simply wilt it into eggs in the morning. It doesn't need to be fancy. I had a patient, Robert, 68, who told me he hadn't eaten a green vegetable on purpose since the Reagan administration. His wife started sneaking spinach into his pasta sauce, and within a couple of months, more out of curiosity than expectation, he mentioned his legs felt less heavy on his evening walks. I can't promise you spinach alone did that, but it's a small, low-risk place to start, and Robert, to his credit, now asks for it. Second on the list, sweet potatoes. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Isn't that just a carb? It is, but it's a thoughtful one. Sweet potatoes bring vitamin A, vitamin C, fiber, and a healthy dose of potassium to the table. The fiber slows down how quickly that natural sugar enters your bloodstream, which means steadier energy instead of a spike and a crash. And steady energy matters when you're trying to stay active enough to maintain muscle. A medium sweet potato, roasted or baked, paired with a source of protein like grilled chicken or fish, makes for a simple, satisfying meal. 3 or 4 times a week is reasonable for most people. Skip the candied version with marshmallows on top, much as I understand the appeal around the holidays. Third, broccoli. This one's quietly powerful. It's loaded with vitamin C, vitamin K, folate, and antioxidants that help your body manage everyday cellular wear and tear. The kind that adds up over decades and contributes to how tissue repairs and maintains itself. Steaming or quickly stir-frying broccoli, rather than boiling it to death, preserves more of those nutrients. A cup, 4 or 5 times a week, is a sensible target. Now let me ask you something, and I'm genuinely curious. How old are you watching this? And be honest with me. Do your legs feel weak, numb, or just generally more tired than they used to? Tell me in the comments. I read them, and they tell me far more about what people are actually dealing with than any chart ever could. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. We talk through these everyday health questions for people over 60 every week. The kind of questions you might feel a little embarrassed to bring up at your annual physical. All right, 4th vegetable, and this one tends to surprise people. Beets. Beets are particularly rich in dietary nitrates, even more concentrated than spinach in some cases. And those nitrates get converted in your body into a compound that helps your blood vessels widen slightly, improving blood flow and oxygen delivery to working muscles. Think of it as widening a narrow garden hose just enough that the water pressure improves. A half cup of roasted or boiled beets 3 or 4 times a week is a good amount for most people. Roasted with a little olive oil and rosemary, they're genuinely good, not just tolerable. One caution though, and I say this to every patient. If you're on blood pressure medication or have any kidney concerns, mention beets to your doctor before making them a daily habit, simply because of how they can interact with certain conditions. I think of Dorothy, 81 years old, an avid gardener her whole life, who'd had to give up her vegetable beds because walking on uneven ground had become frightening for her. Her daughter started incorporating beets into weekly dinners alongside Dorothy's regular walking routine, which her doctor had also encouraged. 6 months later, Dorothy was back in her garden, slower than before, careful, using a kneeling pad now, but back. She told me, with this little smile, that her tomatoes had missed her. Now we arrive at the one I mentioned earlier. Most people expect spinach or broccoli to take the top spot in a video like this. But after decades of working with older adults, there's one colorful vegetable I find myself recommending more than almost any other, and it's the one people walk right past in the produce aisle. Bell peppers. Bell peppers, particularly the red ones, actually contain more vitamin C, ounce for ounce, than an orange. That matters more than people realize because vitamin C is essential for producing collagen, and collagen is part of what keeps your blood vessels, your skin, and the connective tissue around your joints and muscles structurally sound. It's also rich in additional antioxidants that support your body's everyday maintenance work. A cup of sliced raw bell pepper as a snack or sautéed alongside dinner 3 or 4 times a week is plenty. Raw with a little hummus in the early evening while watching the news. Simple. I want to tell you about Margaret, 79. Her husband had passed 2 years prior, and she told me, quietly, in my office one afternoon, that she'd lost interest in cooking for just herself. Frozen dinners, mostly. Her legs had grown weaker, her energy had faded, and I think, if I'm honest, some of it was nutrition and some of it was grief, and the two were tangled together in a way that's awfully common in people her age. We talked about small, manageable changes. Bell peppers, sliced and kept in the fridge, became something she could grab without much effort. Small steps. Over time, alongside short daily walks her physical therapist recommended, she told me she felt steadier, not transformed, steadier. And sometimes steadier is exactly what someone needs to feel like themselves again. Beyond these 5 vegetables, there are a few daily habits worth mentioning. because food works best alongside them, not instead of them. Get enough protein throughout your day, since muscle needs that raw material to maintain and repair itself. Stay hydrated, even though I know plenty of you are intentionally avoiding water in the evening so you're not up at 3 a.m. making the trip to the bathroom. I understand that completely. Just don't let it turn into being chronically underhydrated during the day. Walk daily if you're able. Even short distances count for something. Simple balance and leg strengthening exercises, the kind a physical therapist can show you in 15 minutes, can meaningfully reduce fall risk over time. And ask your doctor about your vitamin B12 and vitamin D levels, since deficiencies in either can genuinely contribute to nerve symptoms and muscle weakness, and they're simple to test for. I do want to be honest with you about something important. No vegetable, no matter how good it is for you, reverses nerve damage or restores strength overnight. These foods are part of a foundation, not a quick fix, and they work best as part of an overall pattern of eating and moving, not as a replacement for whatever care your doctor has recommended. If you're experiencing persistent leg weakness, ongoing numbness, burning sensations, significant swelling, or any sudden loss of strength, please have that evaluated by a healthcare professional. There are many possible causes, ranging from nerve conditions to circulation issues to medication side effects, and getting an accurate answer matters far more than guessing. Here's what I want you to sit with as we wrap up. Strong legs aren't really about the legs. They're about the life attached to them. They're about getting down on the floor to play with a grandchild and being able to get back up without it becoming a whole production. They're about carrying your own groceries in from the car, walking through an airport without dreading it, standing at the stove long enough to finish cooking a meal you actually wanted to make. Every meal where you choose something like spinach over something processed. Every short walk you take, even when the couch is calling your name. That's a small deposit into your own independence. So tell me, which of these 5 vegetables do you already have in your kitchen, and which one are you going to try this week? I'd really like to know. And if today's conversation helps something click for you, I'd consider it a real favor if you'd share it with someone, a brother, a spouse, an old friend who's been blaming their legs on just getting older without asking why. Sometimes people ignore symptoms simply because nobody's ever sat down and explained what's actually happening in plain language. If you found this useful, go ahead and subscribe. We sit down together like this every week and talk through the things about getting older that nobody quite explains clearly enough. Next time, I want to talk about a morning habit, an extremely common one, that may quietly be working against your legs without you ever realizing it. Take care of yourself this week, and take care of those legs. They've carried you a long way already, and with a little attention, they've got plenty of road left in them.